There is a place on Earth where the ground breathes, rivers boil, stone explodes, and a continent sits above a wound so deep it reaches into the planet's memory. People call it Yellowstone National Park, as if it were scenery. But Yellowstone is not a park in the ordinary sense. It is a surviving signal from a world before humanity, before empires, before history itself. For generations, people came here and saw beauty. Science came later and saw something more disturbing. A landscape built by fire, shaped by catastrophe, and still unfinished. And that changes everything we think we know. At dawn, Yellowstone does not look like a warning. It looks like silence made visible. Blue light spills across forests of lodgepole pine. Steam rises in columns from unseen fissures. A herd of bison moves through the mist like animals stepping out of prehistory, dark, slow, mythic. To a visitor standing beside a hot spring or watching sunlight strike the canyon rim, the place can feel peaceful, holy, and that is the first illusion Yellowstone creates. Because beneath that beauty lies one of the most violent systems on Earth, a buried engine of heat and pressure that has been rewriting this landscape for millions of years. Long before there were roads, lodges, cameras, or maps, long before the first city rose in Mesopotamia or the pyramids cast shadows across Egypt, this region belonged to a deeper clock. The story begins not with humanity, but with a restless planet. Earth itself was born from collision, fire, and accretion, a young world assembled from cosmic debris left behind by stars. Its crust cooled, cracked, and drifted. Continents wandered. Oceans opened and vanished. Mountains rose, then wore themselves into dust. Across spans of time so large the human mind resists them, North America drifted over a hidden source of rising heat from deep within the mantle. That plume, invisible to ancient eyes, would one day help create Yellowstone. But that statement is too small. Yellowstone was not formed by a single eruption or a single age of upheaval. It is the latest expression of a chain of cataclysms stretching across the American West. As the North American plate moved southwest over the hotspot, colossal eruptions tore through the crust again and again, leaving a trail of ancient calderas across what is now Idaho, Nevada, and Wyoming. Each eruption was a planetary event, not a local disaster. Ash blasted into the sky, drifted across continents, buried ecosystems, altered rivers, and changed climates. What tourists now experience as geysers and painted pools is the lingering breath of that ancient violence. For much of human history, landscapes like this inspired myth before they inspired science. Indigenous peoples knew Yellowstone long before it became a national park, and they understood it not as an anomaly to be conquered, but as a place of power, danger, and memory. Then came trappers, surveyors, painters, and storytellers who carried tales of boiling mud, exploding water, and colored terraces back east. Many listeners thought the reports were exaggerations, frontier fantasy shaped by isolation. The idea that Earth could contain such instability felt absurd to cultures trained to imagine land as fixed, solid, dependable. Yellowstone offended that assumption. Then science began to arrive, and the park became stranger. Geologists read the cliffs, lavas, and ash beds like fragments of buried scripture. They discovered that the landscape was not ancient in a simple, static sense. It was active, pulsing, temporary. The Great Yellowstone Caldera itself, formed by a massive eruption around 640,000 years ago, was not a crater in the ordinary sense, but the collapsed roof of an enormous magma system. The lakes, valleys, and thermal basins visitors admire today exist because the ground once failed on a scale beyond historical imagination. This was not scenery placed gently upon the earth. It was the aftermath of collapse, and that realization shattered more than local geology. It helped break an older human belief that the world we inhabit is roughly the world that has always been. Yellowstone suggested something far more unsettling, that beneath forests, rivers, and familiar horizons, Earth is still making and unmaking itself. Civilizations count time in dynasties, republics, and wars. Yellowstone counts in magma pulses, glacial scouring, uplift, and eruption. Human history, placed beside that clock, becomes almost too brief to see. The question is no longer why Yellowstone looks so strange. The question is how many worlds have already risen and vanished here before ours even learned to speak. To understand Yellowstone, you have to descend in imagination far below the postcard surface, below the geysers and meadows, below the roots of pine forests and the bones of winter-killed bison, into a realm no human being has ever seen directly. There, beneath miles of rock, heat rises from deep within the earth like memory refusing to die. The crust beneath Yellowstone is thinner, hotter, and more fragile than it appears from above. Molten material does not sit beneath the park as a simple underground lake of fire, as old illustrations once suggested. Instead, it exists within a vast, dynamic system of partially melted rock, superheated fluids, fractures, and pressure zones in constant conversation with one another. This is where science became revolutionary. The old image of Earth as a mostly solid, stable sphere had already begun to crack under the weight of geology, but Yellowstone pushed that revelation further. Seismic waves traveling through the ground revealed chambers of magma far larger than early researchers imagined. Satellite measurements showed that the land itself rises and falls over time, as if the planet were breathing. Swarms of earthquakes rippled beneath the park, usually too small for visitors to notice, but enough to remind researchers that the ground here is never fully still. Yellowstone was not a fossil of past violence. It was a living system. And yet, the real drama lies not only underground, but in the timescale involved. The eruptions associated with the Yellowstone hotspot were separated by spans so vast that an entire human civilization could rise, flourish, collapse, and vanish between them, without leaving even a visible scratch on the geological record. The three most famous caldera-forming eruptions in the Yellowstone system occurred roughly 2.1 million, 1.3 million, and 640,000 years ago. Those numbers do not merely sound large, they crush ordinary intuition. Agriculture, writing, philosophy, empire, religion, industry, modern science, all of recorded human history occupies only a tiny sliver after the most recent of those explosions. And those explosions were not merely large, they were continental in consequence. The Huckleberry Ridge eruption, the oldest of the great Yellowstone events, released enough material to cover huge regions in ash, transforming skies, rivers, and ecosystems far beyond the eruption zone. The later Lava Creek eruption, which helped form today's Yellowstone caldera, blasted hundreds of cubic miles of material into the atmosphere. Such eruptions are measured not in the language of mountains or storms, but in the language of planetary thresholds. They remind us that Earth possesses scales of violence for which human history has almost no emotional vocabulary. Then came another force, quieter but equally immense: ice. During the Pleistocene, glaciers advanced and retreated across the Yellowstone region, grinding rock, reshaping valleys, rerouting waters, and imposing a second layer of transformation over the volcanic one. Fire built the stage, but ice edited it. The Great Lake basins, carved canyons, polished ridges, and moraines visible across the park are not the work of one catastrophe, but of many different worlds laid over one another. Yellowstone is not a single story frozen in stone. It is a palimpsest of infernos and winters, eruptions and glaciations, collapse and renewal. That is why Yellowstone matters far beyond its borders. It reveals a truth civilization resists. The earth beneath us is not background. It is an active author. What looks permanent is often provisional. What seems tranquil may rest atop processes older than mammals, older than forests, older than humanity itself. Yellowstone forces us to think in layers, not moments. Beneath every tree line and thermal pool lies a history of heat, destruction, adaptation, and return. And beneath that history lies a deeper question, more unsettling than eruption alone. If a landscape this beautiful is also this unstable, then what other certainties about Earth have we mistaken for peace? Here, beauty is not the opposite of danger. It is danger's mask. For thousands of years, human beings approached Yellowstone not as tourists, but as fragile creatures entering a land that refused domestication. Long before the language of geology, seismology, and volcanology existed, indigenous peoples moved through this region with a different kind of knowledge, one shaped by observation, memory, migration, and respect. They hunted here, traveled through here, named its waters and valleys, and understood that this was not ordinary ground. Steam vents, burning hillsides, mineral springs, and sudden violence from the earth were not curiosities. They were signs that the land was alive, unpredictable, and older than any human claim upon it. That truth should have humbled everyone who came later. Instead, for much of the 19th century, Yellowstone became a stage upon which another human drama unfolded, the collision between wonder and possession. Explorers and survey parties carried stories eastward of landscapes so strange that many Americans dismissed them as exaggeration. Water that erupted from the ground in regular intervals sounded impossible. Mud that boiled without fire sounded absurd. Entire basins that smelled of sulfur and seemed to hiss from hidden lungs sounded like frontier myth. Yet when painters, photographers, and scientists finally documented the place, disbelief gave way to something more powerful and more dangerous: national imagination. Yellowstone was transformed from remote wilderness into symbol. In 1872, it became the first national park in the world, often remembered as a visionary act of preservation. And it was. But the deeper story is more complicated. The same nation that celebrated Yellowstone as untouched, sublime nature was also expanding through war, displacement, extraction, and industrial ambition. The park was protected, yet the idea of protection often erased the long human histories already embedded there. A place known for centuries became famous only after it was reframed through the eyes of empire, science, and spectacle. Even awe can be political. Still, Yellowstone changed something profound in the modern imagination. It forced industrial civilization to confront a landscape that did not fit the comforting narrative of progress. This was not farmland to be tamed, not a river easily controlled, not a mountain range to be crossed and forgotten. Yellowstone resisted reduction. Its geysers were not resources in the ordinary sense. Its canyons were too vast for ownership to feel complete. Its thermal basins looked less like territory and more like another planet briefly exposed through the crust of our own. Here, modernity encountered deep time face to face, and for a moment, certainty faltered. That encounter mattered because the 19th century was also an age of shattered beliefs. Geology was expanding the age of Earth beyond biblical chronology. Fossils were revealing vanished worlds. Evolution would soon place humanity inside nature rather than above it. Yellowstone arrived in that intellectual revolution, like a wound in the landscape through which the new truth could be seen. The Earth was not 6,000 years old. It was ancient beyond ordinary religious or cultural memory. Humanity was not standing at the center of a finished creation. It was moving across the skin of an unfinished planet. And yet people continued to imagine Yellowstone mainly as scenery, as a majestic destination rather than a warning encoded in beauty. Railroads brought visitors, hotels rose, roads spread. Cameras captured bison, waterfalls, and painted springs. But beneath every image lingered the darker implication. All of this exists because catastrophe once opened the ground on a scale civilization has never witnessed. The park that symbolized American permanence was actually built by instability. The land used to represent national grandeur was geological proof that permanence is an illusion. That is the real human turning point hidden inside Yellowstone's story. It is not only about discovery, preservation, or science. It is about the collapse of human arrogance. Yellowstone revealed that history does not begin with us, and it does not obey us. Beneath our maps, myths, and institutions, the older Earth still moves according to forces that neither need our permission nor notice our plans. And if that is true, then the greatest implication of Yellowstone is still waiting, not in the past, but ahead. The deeper Yellowstone is studied, the less it resembles a beautiful exception, and the more it resembles a revelation about Earth itself. We prefer to imagine planets as stable stages upon which life appears, struggles, and tells stories. Yellowstone destroys that illusion. It shows that the stage is moving. The ground is not a flaw beneath history. It is part of history, shaping what can live, where water flows, how climates shift, and how entire futures become possible or impossible. What appears to be landscape is often only a temporary arrangement inside a system, still changing, still building pressure, still capable of rewriting the surface without warning. That is the twist at the center of Yellowstone's meaning. The park is famous because it feels ancient, but the truth is stranger. Yellowstone is not ancient in the sense of being finished. It is ancient in the sense of being ongoing. Its hot springs, fumaroles, mud pots, and geysers are not relics frozen from some vanished world. They are active expressions of heat moving upward now, in our own time. Water descends through fractures, meets hot rock, becomes superheated, and returns to the surface in bursts of steam and violence. Even Old Faithful, one of the most predictable geysers on Earth, is not a machine performing for visitors. It is a visible negotiation between pressure, plumbing, heat, and chance. That realization expands outward into something even larger. Yellowstone is only one node in a planet-wide network of evidence that Earth is more dynamic than human intuition can comfortably accept. Tectonic plates collide and pull apart. Mantle plumes rise. Oceans circulate heat across hemispheres. Glaciers advance, retreat, and reshape continents. Magnetic poles have reversed. Atmospheres have changed composition. Whole branches of life have appeared, flourished, and vanished. Extinction is not a rare interruption in Earth's story. Transformation is the norm. Stability, from the perspective of deep time, is often only a pause between upheavals. And this is where Yellowstone stops being merely American or even merely geological and becomes philosophical. Civilizations build their confidence on repetition. We trust the sunrise because it keeps returning. We trust rivers because they stay in their valleys. We trust cities because stone, steel, and law create the feeling of continuity. But Yellowstone whispers a more difficult truth. Continuity is a local experience, not a universal rule. 1,000 peaceful years do not cancel the possibility of catastrophe. Human memory mistakes duration for permanence because our lives are too short to witness most of reality's larger rhythms. Science did not make Yellowstone less mysterious. It made it more so. The better we mapped its subsurface, measured its uplift, studied its mineral waters, and traced its eruptive history, the more the park became a symbol of something humbling. Knowledge often arrives not as comfort, but as disillusionment. We once feared that volcanoes were punishments from gods. Now we know they are natural consequences of planetary systems. But that knowledge has not restored our central place in creation. It has done the opposite. It has revealed that the planet is not arranged around human safety, human timelines, or human meaning. So the bigger truth behind Yellowstone is not simply that a supervolcano exists beneath a national park. It is that the Earth we inhabit has always been unstable, and our civilizations are young islands floating on top of processes older than memory and vastly larger than ambition. Yellowstone is not just about what happened here. It is about what kind of world allows places like this to exist at all. And once that truth is seen, the question changes. We are no longer asking whether Yellowstone will matter in the future. We are forced to ask what it already says about the fragility of the present. In the end, Yellowstone does something places on Earth can do. It collapses the distance between beauty and terror, between vacation and apocalypse, between an afternoon and planetary time. A child can watch a geyser erupt and feel wonder. A scientist can watch the same eruption and see the surface trace of a system capable, under the right conditions, of unimaginable destruction. Both are seeing something real. That is what makes Yellowstone powerful. It refuses to belong to only one story. It is paradise, laboratory, archive, warning, sanctuary, and scar at once. And perhaps that is why it unsettles us deeply. Human beings are built to think in lifetimes, generations, at most a few centuries. We build monuments to outlast our bodies, nations to outlast our leaders, religions to outlast our doubts. We call places ancient when they are older than our memory, permanent when they survive a few disasters, eternal when they simply exceed our scale. Yellowstone strips away those comforting words. It reminds us that what we call old may still be young to the earth, and what we call permanent may only be waiting for its turn to vanish. The bison crossing a river, the elk moving through snowfall, the wolves threading through dark timber, the hot breath rising from a basin at sunrise, all of it feels timeless, yet none of it is guaranteed. Species come and go, climates shift, forests burn and return in altered form, rivers cut new paths, magma gathers where no eye can see it. Even now, beneath the beauty people photograph and the silence they travel to find, Yellowstone remains part of a story still unfolding. It is not the ruin of a dead world. It is the living edge of a world that has never stopped changing. That is the final implication for humanity. We are not standing outside nature, studying it from a safe historical distance. We are inside it, temporary and vulnerable, gifted with consciousness, yet unable to negotiate with the deeper mechanics of the planet. We can measure earthquakes, model eruptions, map calderas, and calculate probabilities. We can learn, we can prepare, we can protect one another better than our ancestors could. But all that knowledge exists within limits. Yellowstone reminds us that progress is real, yet fragile, that intelligence is powerful, yet conditional, that civilization is astonishing, yet thin as a skin of frost over fire. And there is something magnificent in that fragility. The human story may be brief, but brief does not mean meaningless. If anything, Yellowstone gives our existence a sharper outline. Against millions of years of eruption, glaciation, collapse, and renewal, the fact that human beings can stand on this restless ground and understand even part of it is extraordinary. We are tiny, yes, but we are the part of the universe that can look at ancient stone, rising steam, and buried magma and ask what it means. We are small enough to be humbled, yet conscious enough to truly wonder. So, Yellowstone is not merely a park or merely a supervolcano. It is a confrontation with reality at full scale. It tells us that Earth was ancient before us, violent without us, and will continue long after our names are gone. It tells us that stability is precious precisely because it is temporary. It tells us that beauty is deeper when it is born from danger. And it tells us that to be human is to live inside a fleeting moment and still search that moment for truth, because in Yellowstone, the ground beneath the story is the story. And when you finally understand that, the park becomes something greater than a destination. It becomes a mirror held up to civilization itself, brilliant, fragile, brief, and standing on the edge of forces older than memory. We came here looking for scenery. What we found was deep time staring back at us,